Good afternoon, everyone. This is Christian with PerfectStockAlert.com, a 100% free service for smart investors and traders. All we ask in return, please refer a friend. Today is Friday. It is April the 20th, 2012. We're going to go over all the major markets that we track at PerfectStockAlert.com, just like we do every Friday, so that you guys know everything that I know moving into the week ahead. And we're looking at Australia's market to start off with, the AORD, and this one we had the shooting star candlestick formation here and here. When we saw this as a peaking signal, and we expected to find resistance here anyway because the longer term chart had showed we had some major resistance there. So anyway, that was expected, and it performed as we expected, and we started to short it. She moves to the downside, we advance the stop, we finally get stopped out, then she jumps up here, and we're like, okay, we see this move here testing the previous high, we don't think it's going to break out, so we're going to start shorting it, not calling this as a top, just saying that at this point or higher, we'd be shorting with the stop set off the previous high, just like we did before. So that's what we're doing, and that's what's playing out right now. The main things that caught my attention here is, again, shooting star formation right here. Another one of these wicks out of the top, long wick out of the top, telling you there is sell pressure still there. And then today's activity, we see that we get a hanging man candlestick formation, which is basically a hammer candlestick at the top of the pattern rather than the bottom of the pattern. And again, noting the bottom, there's no hammer candlestick indicating support. So this looks like it's fixing to start to break down. You can look at this here, this low point here, lower low here, you're trending down right there. You got a high point here, lower high here. This shows a downtrend could be beginning to start there, and that's why you don't want to be long. Now, this could change if you break out above that. If you break out above it, then you would, of course, be stopped out of your short positions, and you would just want to sit back and wait and see what happens from that point. But again, I really don't see a major move here in the Australian markets because of the longer-term charts we've already shown you in the past. Then they have strong resistance at about this level, so I wouldn't be a buyer here regardless. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, this one is actually broken down already. You've got this low point back here. It was a low point higher than the previous, and then we just totally change, break down, get a series of lower lows. Now we're checking to see, do we break out to this new high here? If we can break out there, then they can actually fight off this downtrend that's developing, but I really just don't see it. We talked about this repeatedly. Back here, we said that this did not look like a bottom to us. There's no hammer candlestick formation, so this jump here we would not be a buyer of. She rolls over quickly thereafter. We started short with a stop right there. We got stopped out, and now she's rolling back over again. She just can't get past this area. There's a lot of sell pressure right here, and this is important for multiple reasons. Number one, you start to find that sell pressure for a reason, and over here we can see that that sell pressure existed in the past, and we broke down. And whenever you get this situation here, it's important to note you did get a series of lower lows as well here and here, so that should be concerning. Then you get a big move to the upside, another shooting star formation telling you to look for a sell-off. You get that. Another big move here, like a double top formation here, and she rolls over again, goes lower. She's just not really convincing at this level here. And even though we've broken above it, she just can't hold it. Now she's come up here and tried it again, and she's having the same previous resistance issues she had before. The reason why this is important is because it can develop into a head and shoulders pattern. Let me clean this up. A head and shoulders pattern, if you don't know, we've got videos on our free website at PerfectStockAlert.com that goes over all the different technical tools and technical analysis methods that I use here, so you guys can study them there. But a quick little overview here. You've got the first shoulder here. You've got the head formation here. You've got the second shoulder forming now. That's what it looks like to me. We're just moving sideways at this range here, basically doing the same thing we did over here, and then eventually we break down, taking out this low. So I'm watching this low point and this low point here, draw a trend line across that. That's your neckline. You break below that, close below that, and you can simply take the distance here and measure that out, and you get an idea of how low she's going to fall. So there's a big move to the downside developing here. It's not happened yet, but it does look menacing, so it's definitely not something I'll be a buyer of. I've not jumped back into the short side here, even though I probably could, but I'm just not going to do it just yet. Keep an eye on it, probably take another opportunity next week. I just want to see if we get a little bit higher, because I'm getting really sick and tired of shorting this guy and then getting stopped out and then seeing it go lower anyway. Over here, we saw the high point. We saw it on several markets when we said, okay, we think this is starting to break down. We're going to short here, stop off the high. Next couple of days, she comes up here, stops us out, and then goes lower like we expected anyway. So I'm trying to avoid that this time around. I've already done it again here. That really kind of sucked, but eventually this thing is going to break down like the other markets you've seen in Europe. They're just the leading indicator right now because of what's going on in Spain. The European financial crisis is blooming again, and so these are issues that we need to be paying attention to. The French 40 CAC index, this is another one that shows a perfect example of what's been going on with our trade opportunities right now. We see the markets as clearly defined as being a move to the downside, breaking down, like I said, with the European credit crisis issues. But whenever we enter the short positions and set our stops, we eventually get kicked out, and then she goes lower anyway. So it's really frustrating, so we're trying to avoid doing that. So what we want to do right now is really look for a good jump to the upside, and then find a situation where we've got a nice shooting star like we have here. We don't have one developed at this point. Let me clean that up so you can see. You don't have one actually developed here, so I'm going to wait until maybe I get another jump up here to the upside and then a shooting star formation. Then I might take it again, but for now I'm just going to wait. The German DAX composite, this one we have entered a new short position on right here, looking for resistance at this middle Bollinger Band line and off of this 50-day moving average. And that's key for us. We're going to see a lot of that in these different charts we're looking at. The 50-day moving average and a bullish uptrend will be the support area. It's where you're going to expect to find support here. Then once you start breaking down and closing below it, it's telling you that the trend is falling apart. Your uptrend is breaking down, and you're starting to turn into a downtrend, a bearish trend. In those bearish markets, you'll find resistance at the 50 days. So that's what we're playing there. We're short right now, and we expect to stay short. And as long as the markets continue to move lower, we will stay short. If she breaks out and stops us out of our shorts, that's fine. We'll just sit out and wait for a better opportunity. But I would not be long this market. Again, this trend is breaking down. Buying a downtrend is a really bad idea. Having a quick look here at gold, you can see she is in a good downtrend right now, and we're still seeing a lower series of highs, lower series of lows. So I'm not going to be a buyer here, even though we have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive days to the downside here. I'm not going to buy it. Quick look at the Hong Kong Hang Seng Index. This one, it looks like she's starting to make a move to the upside, reverse the trend from a downtrend to an uptrend. Hasn't happened yet, not confirmed yet. Let me show you how you do this. High point here is lower than the previous one. That continues to be the case until now. You've now broken that downtrend that you had going on here. So at this point, you have broken that trend, so you may have a reversal happening, but you don't know until she pulls back. At the point that she pulls back, you want to see, do you get a series of higher lows? This is your low point. You were making lower lows. Now we want to see, does this next pullback find support higher than it did before? If that's the case, then you may have a bottom and may have an opportunity to be a buyer looking for a test of this high again. But until you get that pullback, we're not going to play with it, okay? Just keep an eye on it for next week, but until you get that pullback, and don't pull the trigger. The BSE, or India Bombay Stock Exchange, we have been stopped out of our short position that was with a stop right here. I'm getting another shooting star formation here. Now we're trying to find some support here. We're still in an overall downtrend. Note the high points. High points here, lower high, lower high, lower high. I wouldn't be a buyer, but I obviously can't short it here. I've just been stopped out, so I got to wait for a better opportunity to do something or find some clarity. At this time, I don't see anything. The EWJ, or the Japan iShares, this one is broken down the uptrend. You can see this low point here, now a lower low here, high point here, and a lower high here. You have a big gap right here. It's not filling. There's obviously a substantial sell pressure right there, and she is rolling over lower, so we have entered a short way back here. It's not been stopped out, even though we had to move up here. It couldn't break above that, and our stop held. She formed another shooting star formation and rolled over a little bit lower. You'll also notice on the ultimate oscillator, this 50 line right here, when you can't break above that, when momentum can't get above that or stay above it, it's indicating a bear market. So if you're just broken down and just starting to show a bear market, you're just getting started on the sell side here. Quick look here at the FTSE, the London Financial Times Index. This guy is actually breaking down, even though it was up today. I want you to note a couple of things. First off, you had its major sell signal here. We've talked about this in the past. Another one here. We took advantage of that one, sold it off. In this jump here, we were able to short as well. We finally get stopped out down here, and then we've jumped to the upside here, looking for an entry opportunity, looking for another shooting star formation. We get it here. This long leg doji formation is basically the same thing as a shooting star. And then today's activity, even though it was up, notice that the low point of this candlestick is lower than the previous one here. The high point is also lower than the previous one here. She is actually rolling over right here. So it looks right to us. Keep a stop right here and be a short in this guy. The NASDAQ trade is pretty obvious. You got a downtrend, you got the high point here, nice sell-off. We called the top perfectly there. Tested the previous high, fails, goes lower, breaks down. We finally get a jump here, which stops us out of our short trade. We go short again here with a stop off of this high here, and we do not get stopped out. We have tested it once, failed, tested it twice, failed, and going lower here, closing lower than the previous day. All in all, there's nothing about this chart that should be people should be buying here. You've got no hammer candlestick bottom here, which means you don't have a bottom. You haven't actually found a true bottom. This is what you should look for when you see a true bottom, hammer candlestick, then a series of higher highs from the candlestick to the next, and a series of higher lows. So that's pretty obvious. Here you don't have that. Also, if you analyze the trend, which is obviously down, you get a sell signal. If you analyze the candlestick, you get a sell signal. If you analyze the volume, you get sell volume is greater than buy volume. Therefore, the direction of this is very obvious. Sell it. Oil has been flatlining for the past 2 weeks. If you're looking at the XOI here, you can see that we've just been moving sideways on this little support line here, but no hammer candlestick formations anywhere along this bottom here. I expect this will eventually break down. Our stop is right here, set off this high point, and we're just continue to follow this and stay short until she either stops us out or breaks down and goes lower, and we start advancing our stops. These charts are always kept on our free website at perfectstockalert.com. You can watch them there. We update them every single night for those of you who are following us, okay? For now, I just point out that if you want to know how people actually feel about the economy, not what the news is telling you, but how people truly feel about it, just watch oil. If oil's going lower, they're not happy with the economy. So right now, there's nothing to argue about. Obviously, the economy is not all that impressive. The UUP, or the U.S. Bullish Dollar Index Fund, I'd be a buyer of this even though she's pulled back here. As long as she maintains this support line, I'd be a buyer of that opportunity. You may want to wait until you get a hammer candlestick formation, form again, and then start buying it. But for now, the main thing that I'm seeing here is the reason why you had to make a move today on Friday with the U.S. dollar fund here is simply because the addition by the IMF to double their war chest to solve the credit crisis in Europe. The question I want to ask you is, why did they do that? They just got done telling you they don't need to bail out Spain, so why then do they feel it necessary to add money to that war chest? Someone's a liar. Okay. Looking now at the Russell 2000 Small Cap Index, this one we are short with a stop set right here. You'll notice that's about line with the 50-day moving average, this red line right here, and the middle Bollinger Band line of the middle of the Bollinger Band line. The main thing about that is typically when you're in a downtrend, you'll find resistance at the middle of the Bollinger Band line, so that's why these things are important to us when we are in a downtrend, because the high points are trending down and the low points are trending down. So we want to be looking for short opportunities, not long. Also, we blended this candlestick together with this one, these two here, and found that we had a shooting star formation. We talked about that a few days ago. We said that was something you could do and something you could figure out that you would in fact want to sell it, just like everybody else is, and that's been working for us for a couple of days now. Ultimately, I would look for a lower low in this market. It means takes this guy out really easy. So here's your stop. Any moves up in here, you can simply short it and look to take this out and go lower, and then we'll advance the stop as we go. The SPX, or the S&P 500, this one we actually updated last night saying we would look for a short opportunity on today's activity. So when you move to the upside, we would have shorted, and now she's rolled back over and closed down below the 50-day moving average. This, again, tells you everything you need to know. You bounce off of it when you're bullish, you close below it and find resistance at it when you're bearish, and you're getting more bearish, not more bullish here. I would short it. Keep a tight stop, of course, but I would short this and not be looking for a buy opportunity in this market. Take a quick look here at silver. This is a chart that I couldn't tell you jack about. It's not able to be read by me up or down. She's just kind of moving sideways. We talked about this for the past couple of weeks now, and I wouldn't short it. I wouldn't go long. She's just moving sideways, and that doesn't give me really anything to play there, so I'm not going to mess with it. Canada's market, the Toronto Stock Exchange for the TSX, this one is also in an obvious downtrend. Had a major head and shoulders formation we talked about way back when. Had that shoulder, the first head, the second shoulder, broke below the neckline. Yeah, there's your neckline right there. And now she's just bouncing around, giving us a bunch of sell signals like here and here, a bunch of shooting star formations, and like you had back here. So I'm not going to be a buyer of this, of course, and I am still short. Here's my stop, and we've not been stopped out, so I have no reason to do anything other than short this guy. I do expect this low to be taken out, so if the rest of the markets go lower, so will this one, and that's my stance on that. However, if I get stopped out, I get stopped out, and I sit back and I wait for another opportunity. I would not be long because the trend is down. Low point, high point, lower high, low point, lower low. It's obvious the direction. The VIX, or the Volatility Index, this runs the inverse of the S&P 500. So when the VIX is going down, the S&P 500 is going up, and vice versa. Whenever you're looking at this chart right now, the main thing I want to draw your attention, you find resistance at the 50-day here, which means during that time period you were finding support at the 50-day on the S&P. Here you got resistance again. Actually, you close above it, but you sell off or quick back down below it. And then over here you find resistance, resistance, and then no more resistance. And we close above it, fall to it, close above it, close above it, close above it, above it, above it, and now we fall to it. And again, when we dip below it, we get buy pressure right there, finding support at the 50-day moving average. This would be a buy opportunity in my opinion, but I've marked it as black. What does that mean? Whenever it's blue, it just means the next day I'd be a buyer or seller, depending on the direction of the arrow. But in this case here, it's black, which means if and then. So if tomorrow, or I should say the next trading session, Monday, is higher than this candlestick formation here at 18, what was it? The day's high was 1805. So if I see 1806, then I would buy and put a stop right here. Real tight stops, a really small trade. I'm looking for a test of the previous high. That means if I'm looking for this to make a move to the upside, it means I'm looking for the major markets, especially the S&P 500, to go lower because they go the inverse, all right? So now you know everything that I know. The markets are not primed for buying. They are primed to break down. If you've not been to our free website at perfectstockalert.com, it is right there. It's 100% free, and all we ask in return, please refer a friend. Also, please share our videos online. That you could do that instead of referring a friend. That helps us as well. I wanted to take a moment to say thank you guys for everybody who's been sharing our videos online. It's helped us a lot. Our website is growing. The free service that we provide you is as good as it is and can be made better, but only as we grow. So, we're both helping one another. You help us grow. We help, provide you more free stuff. So, I hope you guys appreciate it, and I am thankful for all you guys' support. God bless. Take care. Enjoy your weekend and be safe. Please take a moment to review our disclaimer. The information provided herein is our opinion only. Under no circumstances do any statements here represent a recommendation to buy or sell securities or make any kind of an investment. You are responsible for your own due diligence. To summarize, we do not provide investment advice, nor do we make any claims or promises that any information here will lead to a profit, loss, or any other result. These videos are for educational purposes only.